Four Nations face-off final for North American bragging rights. Canada and the U.S. at TD Garden in Boston. The team's coming out. Now, earlier on Thursday, Bill Guerin received a phone call from Donald Trump. Here's what he had to say.
You just go out and have a good time. You're going to win. And we love America. And we love you guys. We'll be watching tonight. Bring it home.
Thank you.
All right, time for the hockey. The U.S. team making its way out. Here comes Canada. The team captains, Austin Matthews, we just heard from, and Sidney Crosby out there. And all sorts of star power. There was Wayne Gretzky, Michael Ruzioni. Meanwhile, Nathan MacKinnon coming up, 29, snapping the wrist. His fourth goal in 4 games of this tournament. And Canada on the board first, 1-0. Canada has scored first in all 4 of its games in the Four Nations face-off. Yeah. Hoist your beer if you're from Canada. But then the Americans come right back. Matthews, wraparound feeds Brady Tkachuk, who's been battling illness all week, but gets it to go. Tkachuk just sort of flutters it
menace
over Jordan Binnington. We're tied at 1. His brother Matthew did not play much tonight because of injury. So we saw Tkachuk and Ottawa Senators score. How about another Sen getting into the act? Jake Sanderson punches it home. The 22-year-old with the goal to put the U.S. up 2-1. So 2 unanswered. Zach Werenski feeds it in. And there is Sanderson right there with the cleanup. So the U.S. takes the lead. Still second period. Here comes Canada. Mitch Marner finding Sam Bennett, who finds the back of the net, beating Connor Hellebuck. Bennett starts the play on the forecheck, gets possession, and keeps on skating down to the offensive end, and Marner is going to find him. Well done by the Canadians to tie the game at 2 apiece. A brilliant hockey game, back and forth, very cleanly played. Just 1 power play all night. See Matthew Tkachuk's ice time, played less than 7 minutes in the first 2 periods and did not return the rest of the way. I'm sure tough for him to swallow, such a leader on this American team. And then Brandon Hagel, who had words for Tkachuk earlier in the week. The puck bounces through traffic and then doinks the post. Close call. The game goes overtime after a scoreless third. Yeah, the last time they met in OT in a best-on-best was the 2010 Olympics. Sidney Crosby, the OT winner. And here we go. Matthews. What a look. He gets right in front, but denied by Binnington. Just couldn't get quite enough elevation on it. The blocker saved by Binnington, who was excellent tonight. Then Brady Tkachuk. Watch the angle. Just catches and shoots, but Binnington. Glove save and a beauty as he stretches out. So he denies the Americans twice right on the doorstep. And back comes Canada, and there's Connor McDavid. Another feed from Marner, 97, the game winner in overtime, as Canada does it again. So tough in international play. That's 7 of 9 in NHL-sponsored international tournaments. Connor McDavid, best player in the world by most accounts. With the game winner, John Cooper gives Binnington the hug. McDavid, the player of the game, as Canada wins the four-nation face-off, the inaugural four-nation face-off, 3-2 in overtime. So the U.S. and Canada have faced off in a best-on-best tournament final 4 times prior to tonight. First, the 91 Canada Cup, where Canada swept the best-of-3, winning the first 2 games. 5 years later, in the 1996 World Cup of Hockey, the U.S. got some revenge, scoring 4 unanswered goals in the third period of Game 3 to give them their first major men's hockey title since the Miracle on Ice at the 1980 Olympics. In the 2002 Olympic final in Salt Lake City, the U.S. jumped out to a 1-0 lead, but Canada answered and went on to win 5-2 thanks to a couple goals from Joe Sakic. And then the 2010 Olympics, the two met with the gold medal on the line. Zach Parise tied the game for the U.S. with under 30 seconds left in regulation. Canada, though, would win in overtime on that golden goal from Sidney Crosby. And now tonight's dramatic overtime finish, and Canada continues its dominance in international tournaments. As we mentioned, 7 of 9 total tournaments go to the Canadians as they made the final in all 9.
Emily Kaplan joins us now, and that makes me happy. And I would imagine the NHL is also feeling very happy. What has their reaction and their response been to this Four Nations tournament?
Yeah, it exceeded expectations. I mean, I had a blast covering this, and I talked to so many players who said that this was the most fun they had playing hockey in a really long time. I do think it's fitting that Connor McDavid was the one that scored the game-winning goal. He's the best player in the world right now, and as the star player of this league, he has a lot of clout, and one of the things he's campaigned for years with the NHL is, I want to play international hockey. It's so important for him. And so for him and his teammates to deliver on this stage is fantastic. But again, from a league perspective, I talked to so many executives who knew the players would buy in. They didn't quite realize it would be to this degree. And then to get really so much of the world watching, people who might have been casual hockey fans, just casual sports fans, they know they caught some lightning in a bottle here to get some momentum for our sport.
Well, it's like right what Ray said earlier. He said Stanley Cup or this. I thought he was going to say Stanley Cup, but he was like, no, there's nothing that tops playing for your country. So what is the future of international play? Obviously, we have the Olympics next year. So where do we stand?
Yeah, so that's the big thing. The NHL players are going back to the Olympics next year. It's the first time since 2014. For so long, NHL owners had held that as a leverage point with the players. Like, we don't want to send you because we pay your paychecks and we know we're absorbing some risk. But finally, they understood that if we send NHL players to the Olympics, it's the best showcase for our sport on a level that's so much larger than what we've seen these last 2 weeks. And that is really going to allow the sport to shine from a marketing and awareness standpoint. Also, every 2 years, they've now announced a World Cup of Hockey. So this was just the sampler of it. 4 teams. They had to get it together quickly, a tournament with no history and probably won't have history after this. The World Cup of Hockey is going to have at least 8 teams. It's going to be an every 2-year cadence outside of the Olympic cycle. We're going to be able to include teams like Czechia with David Pastrnak, Germany, Leon Draisaitl, Mo Seider, Tim Stützle. Switzerland's come a long way. The big question is, will Russia be able to participate? The IIHF currently has them banned from all international competition. Probably needs the war to be over for Russia to participate. However, they would be a star-studded team. And I think after this, the NHL is going to take a good hard look at the All-Star game because it's going to be hard to go back to a typical format after how exciting this was.
The fact that Matthew Tkachuk did not play most of this game. He's obviously dealing with an injury. What have you learned about what is going on?
Yeah, I can't give you the specifics, and Coach Mike Sullivan did not provide an official update after the game. But based on what I saw and based off what I know, I would not be surprised if Matthew Tkachuk did miss a little bit of time for the Panthers out of the break. His general manager for the Panthers, Bill Zito, is part of this Team USA management staff. So he was on board with all of the medical decisions. And I know one of the reasons Bill Zito mortgaged the entire future of his franchise to get Matthew Tkachuk is because he's such a gamer and he would show up in a game like this. So the coaching staff told me in the middle of the game that he was still going to come back in a limited role. I think that if they'd gotten a power play in the third period, you would have seen him out there. But I was watching him on a bench, and again, why Mike Sullivan told me in the middle of the game is like one of the heartbeats of this team, is the heartbeat of the team. He was the best cheerleader for everyone. He was standing up. He was going back and forth, talking to guys. That's who Matthew Tkachuk is. And I was watching as they were singing "O Canada" and the Canadians were celebrating. He was just sitting there with a look of disgust. And I know that this is going to be motivation for him, especially heading into Milan.
Like his brother also said, this is going to be a good chip on our shoulder for many years to come. Emily Kaplan, always a pleasure. We'll see you soon.